In this episode, I'm going to discuss what I think will happen in the real estate market for the rest of 2020.
You ask real estate questions, and I answer them. This is the Ask Daniel Los Angeles Show.
Welcome everybody to episode 38 of the Ask Daniel Los Angeles Show. Let's go.
Carol asks, what's going to happen in the real estate market for the rest of 2020?
Let me predict what's going to happen in 2020 for you in real estate. So this past spring, there weren't a lot of transactions. They were about 40% down on average, and that's because of the pandemic. The sellers just didn't want to move. So that springtime selling season really is getting pushed to summertime. So summertime, I do expect there to be more inventory on the market, and the buyer demand never really went away, but the buyer's going to snatch up all those properties. Then in September, October, that's the start of the flu season. The kids are going to be back in school. They're going to bring home the germs to their parents. Everybody's going to start getting the flu. People are going to start freaking out that it's a second wave of the coronavirus. And that's all you're going to hear on the news. Second wave, second wave, second wave. That's going to be in October. Because of that, you might see the same thing that happened back in March, where sellers are like, you know what, I'm just going to stay put for the time being. So there's going to be less inventory, less transactions. So that's unfortunately going to put a damper on the market again in October. Of course, you have the fourth quarter of the year where things naturally get slower because of the holidays. This one might be a little bit different just because it's not a normal year, and sellers might take that opportunity to sell their property. I do think buyers are not going anywhere this year, so because of the low interest rates, and I do think that's what's going to happen. It's going to be an interesting time throughout the entire year, but there will be sales, but look out for possibly October, a dip in sales.
Ryan asks, what do mortgage interest rates look like for home buyers right now?
Mortgage interest rates have been tracked ever since the 1970s, and right now it is the lowest point that it's ever been in the history of all of its tracking. So back in the 70s, my dad was selling a lot of real estate, and he was telling me that interest rates were at 18%. And now I sold a home last week at 3.125%, which is the lowest interest rate that I've ever seen any of my clients ever get. So as of right now, it's the lowest on record, but it's like the stock market. It can go up or down. So you never know what will happen tomorrow. But as of right now, it is the lowest that it's ever been.
Paul asks, has it been difficult to show homes during the pandemic?
It's been a little different showing property now during the pandemic. First of all, the buyer has to sign a waiver form saying that they don't have the coronavirus and that they run the risk of getting it if they enter into the property. So that's a way of protecting the seller. Of course, there's the mask, the gloves, the booties, the hand sanitizer, all that good stuff. But just in general, it's harder to actually get into a property to see it. A lot of times sellers will have a window, let's say Tuesday from 12 to 3, when you can show the property, and they'll do 15-minute increment showings. Every single one of those showings will book up within 24 hours. And you don't know the next time that you're able to get in to see the property to show it to your client. So it's been difficult, a little bit of a hassle to actually just get a buyer into the property to show it because you can't have any open houses anymore. So you can't just have everybody come in and roaming around the house at the same time. It has to be appointments. So that's been the biggest hindrance so far. But it's not the end of the world, and eventually you get your client in. It's just a little bit more of a hassle.
Rich asks, what's the hardest real estate deal you've ever had?
I haven't really had too many difficult transactions. Normally you would think the buyer or the seller was difficult to work with. Not really. The biggest problem that I've had was communication with the lender. So one example is I had this one property, I was representing the buyer, and the lender, they just didn't communicate with me. I would ask a question, I would call, text, email, no response for 5, 10 days. When they did finally respond, we had another 20, 30 questions for them, bombarding them, and they didn't answer anything. We eventually got it done, but when they funded the loan, usually the lender calls me and they say, hey, guess what? We funded the loan. Isn't that great? And they kind of pat themselves on the back of what a great job that they've done. They didn't even do that. When we closed escrow, there was no congratulations, nothing. There was no communication. There was very, very minimal. And because of that, that's a very difficult situation to be in. I mean, you're buying a house, you got to talk with the lender, right? But the buyer wanted to go with them, and that's what we did, and we still got the deal done. That is it for episode 38 of the Ask Daniel Los Angeles show. Follow me on Instagram at Daniel Los Angeles. You keep asking real estate questions, and I'll keep answering them.